Good evening, everyone. Welcome all on behalf of Beyond Law CLC and ULS Punjab University, Chandigarh, to yet another engaging session. But this time, we thought that the webinars we have been holding have always been exciting in the sense of knowledge perspective. Since we have been holding webinars on different issues, this time, since as a lawyer, myself being a lawyer and Mr. Puneet BALI, a senior advocate, also who's a well-renowned lawyer, we thought that there are certain issues regarding the sports and its law. And there's not much law developed on that. The common person, the student of law, the lawyer, as well as anybody who's directly or indirectly connected with sports also, feels what are the rights, what are the challenges, what should be the contract, whether it should be taken as a career, because since it has a short span, sports player all generally have a short span of the career. Whether these children should take sports first or whether amongst us, we have been joined by Mr. Puneet BALI. I'm just checking as to whether Mr. Yuvraj has joined. Mr. BALI would just.
Yes, I think.
Yes, I'm seeing Yuvraj's iPad. We are unmuting him.
All right.
Yes. Before we proceed further, because Mr. BALI, we have been meeting off and on in the courtrooms and nowadays on the virtual platform. We can say today's events main focus is on Mr. Yuvraj, because he brings us the insights. Actually, we all develop the knowledge of law after going through the various case law. And amongst us, we have Mr. Yuvraj Singh, who will give his personal insights. We will be taking questions, and today's format is slightly different. We will ask certain issues of Mr. Yuvraj Singh's, what has been journey, what are the challenges as a youngster. Mr. Yuvraj, Mr. Yuvraj Singh?
Yeah, ji, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Everybody can hear you. And
namaskar.
Welcome, Yuvraj.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saeed Saab. Looking sharp.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Chatrat, I cannot see Mr. Yuvraj.
In that eventuality, you will have to go by the gallery view, or whenever he speaks, because it's a speaker view, you will always see whenever, let's assume I am speaking, I will come on the picture, or once you are speaking, you will be on the main focus. The gallery, or it can be on a gallery view, because whenever Yuvraj will speak, automatically he comes in the center stage. Even though it goes without saying, today the entire center stage is on Yuvraj Singh. We welcome you, both of you, on this platform. And needless to say, the participants who are on the platform, we welcome them during these testing times. We have to stand strong and we have to overcome. And we thought that during these testing times, why not bring a person who has been inspiration in his own way? How he suffered through cancer, how he returned back, what has been his journey as a player. Normally, we don't see a player having 19 years of journey and then during that missed period, also suffering from cancer and how to return back. So first, few words from Yuvraj Singh, then Puneet BALI, then I will take certain questions from Yuvraj, and we will also take questions from the persons on the platform, either on the chat box, or we will unmute certain persons and they can ask questions directly to Mr. BALI or Mr. Yuvraj Singh. First to Mr. BALI, slight introduction about Yuvraj Singh, though he needs no introduction. And then I will ask a few questions from Yuvraj Singh. What normally we have received on the WhatsApp, what questions they actually want to ask from Yuvraj Singh. Yes.
Hello everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to be back on your webinar, Mr. Chatrat. And discuss now today to discuss something which is a little bit beyond law and within law itself. Now, I've had a very interesting relationship and friendship with Mr. Yuvraj. And as a young boy, when I was watching the game between Haryana and Punjab, the news of birth of Yuvraj Singh came to the ground, and I was supposed to run into the ground and give the news to his father, Mr. Yuvraj Singh. So that is how far back we go. So I just ran as a small child into the ground, and I told Mr. Yuvraj Singh that you have been blessed with a son, and he picked me up, and I almost went into space when he threw me like that, in his arms. But Yuvraj's journey, as far as I'm concerned, has been very inspirational to all people who are into sports, who are into fitness, people who aspire to become something. As a small child, I have seen him doing the hard yards, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning under lights with a plastic ball, which would hurt really badly if it would hit him, and continuously, relentlessly practicing, going, packing his kit bag, going from one venue to the other to play matches. And ultimately, what we had was in 2000, the debut of Mr. Yuvraj Singh in Nairobi, where he won a match for us in his first game and sent bowlers like Brett Lee McGrath to all the corners of the park. And then rest is history. Yuvraj's life has inspired people who are in love with the game of cricket, people who are sportsmen, people who thought that in their life, because of some medical problem or some other issue, there is a full stop in their life. But Yuvraj's courage to fight a disease like cancer and to play with that ailment during the World Cup of 2011, win us the World Cup, be the man of the tournament in that World Cup, talks a lot about his character. And his retirement after 19 years of serving the game of cricket, we have every moment Yuvraj has stepped into the field. I have not seen such a bat flow, such stroke making. And whenever I look at the modern contemporary players and I see the players playing, I always remember that Yuvraj, what came from his bat was absolutely special. And with the advent of time, I've always seen Yuvraj getting more humble with success, a lot of humanity involved, a lot of charitable work which he does. He gives a lot to the society, and therefore he's a clear inspiration, one of the most wonderful people of this country, and we as Indians are proud of him. That is what I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Puneet. After having certain questions from Yuvraj, what was his journey, how he inspires other people, needless to say that he has inspired many people. The cricket, the fielding, the fitness, anything you can note, Yuvraj is one name which automatically comes in the mind. And we will take questions. Mr. Bali will also take us to what are the sports law and what is the issues which invariably arise. But since our platform is beyond law, CLC, meaning thereby we take issues of law and beyond law which relate to a common man also. So, Mr. Yuvraj, you are welcome to the board formally. I would just like to ask that few questions do arise amongst the common man. Invariably, you know that cricket, you have inspired many people to join cricket as a profession. But at the same time, it's again challenge to be amongst the first 16 in the Indian and to sustain that. How do you maintain, what is your take as to whether a child who feels or his parents feel that he has a potential, that he should take sports first or he should maintain the balance with the sports? What is your take on that?
Thank you, sir, for having me on this webinar of sports and law. I think it's a very interesting topic that we can talk about today. And thank you to Mr. Bali, who's an ace lawyer and our secretary for Punjab Cricket Association. The reason why I'm here on the chat. I think kind words from you guys and Mr. Bali about how I have been an inspiration towards my fellow countrymen. But as I said, as Mr. Bali said, it's a long journey, and we will talk about various points. But the points that you're talking about to start off with is, I think it really depends on parents how to guide their children. I think like my father and Mr. Bali knows, Mr. Bali is one of the very few guys who are closely related to a family who's played under the coaching of my father. And in today's era, we'll have very less fathers like that, because coachings were very different at that time, and upbringing of children was also very different on that time. I think a lot of parents in those times believed if they follow a certain path, whether it was military or navy or sport or studies, they would encourage their children to do the same. And so it happened with me as well. As my father played for India and didn't play for a long time, I think he wanted to see me in those tricolors through his dream. But over the years, in the last 15, 20 years, times have changed a lot. And I feel from my upbringing and my personal ups and downs and experience and maturing at a certain age, I certainly believe that we need to allow our child to do what he feels like. Definitely guide him, and probably from the parent side or the teacher side, guide him in the right sense, but probably not force things upon him, because there are certain things children want to do. They have their dreams, and if they want to follow a particular path, we should encourage them. But I feel sports and studies should be a part of their lifestyle when they're growing up.
Point well taken, Mr. Yuvraj. As we all know that how you struggled with the cancer, and sometimes in the team and outside the team, but you were always been an inspiration. But one thing which any cricket lover or any sports lover would be there, or I go a step further, even if he's not a sports lover, that 6 sixes on Stuart Broad are the memories, at least I can say for myself, that as and when I see on the platform those 6 sixes, the name though it's Stuart Broad, I would correlate that it's not Stuart Broad. I would say that Chhati actually chodi hogi, and that is why it is you had hit 6 sixes to Broad sit. So what was your experience? And at least I have not been able to sink that feeling of 6 sixes. I remember I was in Chandigarh club watching that match. Even still today, when I talked to Mr. Bali that you are coming on the platform, there were 6 sixes, and while I'm talking to you, those 6 sixes on different directions still ring within my mind, my heart. What is your take on that?
Yes, thank you for reminding about that. It's a very special memory. I think all the fans who have logged on, probably they put a 6 sixes story every day on Instagram or social media, and every time I open my phone, it's like a constant reminder of 6 sixes every day. I think the value of 6 sixes today is much more than when it started, because there was in 2007, it was the first tournament and T20 World Cup, and T20 was unheard of. So I think it was one of those days where everything went in my favor. I think in sport, there are days when things are going well for you, and there are days when they don't go well for you. So it's like, every day, it's like life. You have good days and you have bad days. So sport is also similar to that. And obviously, I remember I had 2 bad games before that, and it was a must-win game. And a couple of months ago, I got hit for 5 sixes and over by when I was playing against England. So that really upset me. And I think when I hit those 6 sixes, I probably had an argument with one of the England players called Andrew Flintoff. I'm sure all the fans recognize that memory, and it actually charged me up. and I wanted to, give a reply back with my bat. And so it was my day. I remember that I was hitting everything in the middle of the bat. And obviously, Stuart Broad, someone who was very less experienced and a very young guy, had to bear the brunt of it. And it was just my day. I think I was charged up, and I was hungry for winning the game for my country. And it was destiny. It was supposed to happen. And I'm sure every time 19 September 2007, every time we have 19 September in every year, all the fans remind Stuart Broad and Freddie Flintoff of what happened that day. So it's like a constant journey. It's like it happened yesterday, but it's been almost like 12, 13 years. But thanks to the fans, you will always see those six sixes on social media almost every day.
I will say that you are saying only the September, but I feel that every day that is a special. I thought that after those six sixes, he should have changed his name to Stuart Thin, because he just went off just to be remove the paint from paint by a thinner. So that's the way. I, I also remember that after seeing you, like you said, that 2 games were bad and then you came back bouncing. I'm reminded that it said that life goes with those persons. We symbolize that thing with the ball. The more harder you hit on the ground that ball, it goes much higher. I thought that they had rubbed on the wrong side, and the way you befitted, I think that's an inspiration. If somebody, I will say it is a cue for the children also. Let's assume the parents say that you are not doing anything, but in a befitting reply, they come out with a flying color. So let's not restrict to the sports itself. It's an encouragement that if somebody is conscious is hit in a wrong manner, he should give. And then you said that 5 sixes were hit and you hit 6. I had always remembered an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is one of the ideology. But I never realized for an eye you can also take 2 eyes, go in a right sense, which is a source of encouragement. We would also like to know that what was your journey and what was your schedule while you became a player, because everybody feels they do not know what triggers a sports player feel. Everybody feels the glamour, the clapping, the waves going on in the stadium, or the people just going for the autographs. But what is the rigor so that people don't think that Yuvraj has made 6 sixes, it's easy for me to hit 6 sixes. He has got this glamour, he has got so much advertisements, etc. What is your take on that? What is the schedule normally for any player who has to come to an Indian team? How many hours he has to devote?
Sir, I think cricket in our country has a lot of passion. It revolves a lot of passion, and people are crazy about the game. In our country, if India wins, people feel that they have won. If India loses, people feel that they have lost. So they take the wins and losses very personally, which is good and the bad side. So, eventually when young kids come to the block and they perform, the media and the people, they make them superstars. But eventually when they go through a bad patch, media scrutinizes them and makes them villains. That's the part of our culture, and that's the part of media and certain media and certain people you have to realize. I think growing up for me was I was into a lot in skating and tennis. I wanted to be a professional tennis player or a champion skater. I was at the age of say 10 and 11 where I didn't know what my direction was in life, but I was never keen on playing cricket. And I remember I was in YPS I started to play cricket because my father was forcing me to play cricket, and I went to YPS school in Mohali, and I remember the cricket coach was not there, and I started to play tennis. And he actually came from nowhere, and he said to me that, Yuvraj, your father is not going to like this if he sees you playing tennis. So it was disturbing those times, but eventually when I got the hang of cricket, I think my father knew that I had cricket in me. And then there were times where I was woken up at 6 in the morning. probably had to go for 6 to 10 miles of running. And then my father would be coach of DAV College, Chandigarh, where Mr. Bali is also studied and has been a victim of his coaching. So, so I'm sure he can relate to that. And probably we would, run a lot, and I would have to bat from from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, have a 2-hour break, then go and sleep in the afternoon, and probably have to come back and again bat, fielding, bowling for the next 3 hours. And then evening, we had a garden in a house which was replaced by a cemented wicket, which my mother was very upset about, where I had to play 1 hour of short pitch bowling, which are called bouncers in modern age, with plastic balls, with wet tennis balls, and sometimes wet leather balls. And I was not allowed to wear a helmet till the age of 16. And at the age of 16, when I went to England, when I went on an England tour, I felt the fast bowlers were really quick. And I came, and though I did really well without a helmet, but I came and requested my father that I should be allowed to wear a helmet. And so on, went to play under 19s and then played the under 19 World Cup. Yeah.
The point well taken from all this is that as a child, from you, it has been understood that sometimes a normal person or a youngster feels that his career is on a different tangent. But as they say that the teacher or a parent can actually see what is the talent and the potential. As you have said, your father saw that you had a potential in cricket, and he also wanted that he couldn't play to that much time. So fulfilling the aspiration of father, they say that once the child does better, there's no better relationship than a father or a mother who feels more happy that the child is doing better. So I would just like to ask that you have seen as a youngster then so much limelight, especially that after 6 sixes, you are saying even 12 years have gone by, and your fans are not allowing that feeling to sink. It is well understood that if the fans have not been able to take away that feeling, why? Because we are also one of the fans. I could say that if 12 years the people have not stopped thinking about those 6 sixes, I would rather say they are not fans, they are rather air conditioners. And amongst because that frozen feeling, because once you are frozen, that is the entire different perspective. And interestingly, Mr. Yuvraj, I can see your craze. We have amongst us Monty Panesar on the screen. We were unmuting him. We will just ask how his feeling is there when he was associated with you in the cricket. Welcome to the board, Mr. Monty.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Also nice to see YUVRAJ as well. You know, I interviewed his dad on Saturday, and he's a very entertaining guy. Very nice guy. Yeah, I think for me, YUVRAJ was always this kind of like a guy who can just take the game away at any point. And we, you know, as a team, we always feared him. You know, we just knew that he could accelerate when he wanted to, just come in and just hit boundaries from cold. You know, there wasn't, I don't think there were many batsmen when I played one days against him, even during that time, that batsman could just, you know, hit 4s and 6s at will, dominate oppositions, just, you know, just absolutely dominate them. And he kind of reminded me of someone in between like Matthew Hayden and Gilchrist, you know, that sort of batsman where he could stay in there as well, but also destroy an attack as well. And, you know, he was just, you know, we were like, this guy's just like way ahead of his years, you know, unbelievable talent. And he didn't, it just went. It was just like everyone else who'd hit it, let's say, just over the line, he would smash it into the stands. And you think, how far does he hit the ball? And I remember actually when Rod Marsh said to me, there's one guy in India who hits the ball miles, and I've never seen anyone hit it this far. This guy's called YUVRAJ Singh. And he goes, beware of him, mate. He goes, he can destroy an attack and everything. So yeah, I witnessed that myself, and yeah, he was just amazing player.
Any special moment which you cherish with Yuvraj Singh, which you always carry close and at the same time?
He actually edged a ball at Headingley, right? And he should have walked. He knew he edged it. Nigel Long didn't give it out. You edged that ball, didn't you?
Mate, the wind was blowing that side. I think it was noise of the wind that took it. Yeah, definitely. The thing is that I had some horrible innings at Headingley, but thank you, Monty, for all those generous words. I had some horrible innings at Headingley, and I just was very desperate to score runs at Headingley, and I definitely nicked that one off. Honestly, 99 times out of 100, I normally walk, but at Headingley, that's the reason we were playing at Headingley. I didn't walk.
Come on, against me, just say it. I don't want to get out to a fellow Punjabi Sardar. Simple as that, mate.
You got me out a couple of times in test matches, but I also remember apologizing to Matt Pryor, and I said, sorry, mate, but I'm just not walking at Headingley. And I remember scoring 70, 78 odd runs, and I remember scoring them around 60 balls, and I felt so satisfied, like scoring that 70 rather than the other innings that I score runs. But it's nothing personal, Monty. It was just Headingley for me.
Well, there was another moment as well at Edgbaston where there was a mix-up, and I was bowling to him, and I bowled this, flighted ball, and again, anything above eye line just gets dismissed into the stands, and I got him run out from my end, and you didn't come back out to shake my hand. I was like, is he taking it something personal? That Monty, the worst fielder in the team, he must be some unlucky batsman to get run out by Monty.
I didn't expect you to move that quick and run me out. I actually wanted to get on strike, because if I'm on that side and you're going to bowl towards me, because I know if you bowl to Zaheer Khan, you're going to get him out. So I ran to take the strike and you run me out. You actually saved yourself, because I would have definitely got after you that game.
I know. I can tell in the body language once that bat start tapping, I'm thinking, right, he's gonna take me to the cleaners now. And I remember you did that a couple of times. I also remember your innings at Chennai when the unfortunate attacks happened, and that was a big innings, wasn't it? Like Sachin Paji obviously scored that 100, but for you as well, on a turning pitch, everything was in my favour. And obviously, I didn't manage to get you out, but I could see the relief once you got your 100. I was there right next to you. I could feel like the passion, the celebration. It really meant a lot for India, didn't it, at that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think I remember we guys, got out early, and I remember Andrew Strauss getting 100 in both innings, and a target of 375, and you are fourth day evening, and then the fifth day to bat it out. You're looking to draw the test match, but and it was a rank turner, and you and Swan, I certainly believe that the year you won, you and Swan were bowling the best in your career. That's the reason why England won in 2011. But coming back to 2008, on that track, I felt that why we were able to win that test match is because Sehwag gave us a great start and got us into a momentum where we could actually build on it. And I was in and out of the test team for a long time, and because Saurav and Lakshman were there all the time, so it was hard to get a place. And Saurav had just retired, so I was really desperate to make a mark in Test cricket. And I think that innings really gave me a lot of belief that I belong to Test cricket level as well. And against you and Swan, playing on a rank turner, it was hard to score runs. But I think our partnership when we scored 375 runs, it's almost unheard of scoring 400 runs on the last day. So I just felt that I belong to Test cricket, although I didn't play a lot of Test cricket because of those early years missing out, and probably then I got sick later. But I actually had a lot of sense of belief after that innings. I went on to score another 90 in the next test match as well. So I think one of my defining moments in my career.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And do you feel like, did you achieve everything you could in your test career, or do you feel you could have played more games?
Oh no, I certainly have a lot of regret when I talk about test matches, test cricket. As a young kid, we played a lot of 4-day cricket. We had very less of 50 overs, and I really wanted to do well in 5-day cricket. I felt if you're a good player of test cricket, then one day and then T20 cricket becomes easier for you. And 6-7 years starting on my career, I was in and out because I was competing with Saurav, Lakshman, and Sachin Dravid, the 4 middle order batsmen. So it was hard to get in there, and played a couple of games in and out when Saurav retired. Played a few games, and then I got sick. And it was really tough to come back to test cricket after I got sick. So, I mean, if you look at the long run, don't have any regrets like that, but probably would have definitely liked to play more test cricket at the age when I was growing up, because that's where you actually are the best years, from say 24 to say 29 or 30, where you actually mature as a batsman. But if you look at the overall picture, no regrets.
Thank you, Mr. Monty and Mr. Yuvraj. The way we were all set off for this, I just forgot the way you took us on the flow. I forgot that we are on the topic of beyond law, this on sports law and beyond. So I thought that we have not even touched the sports law. So it is more like a law. Yes, I'm just reminded that it's law of attraction first, that we have all been attracted towards you and your journey rather than the law. So I thought that a few questions. So at least we have touched one issue indirectly, that it's a law of attraction. I suppose Mr. PUNEET BALI, who is an ace lawyer, would agree to this aspect at least, that at least we have addressed law of attraction, not strictly in the terms of law at least.
Absolutely. Law of attraction and law of fanfare.
Mr. Yuvraj,
and Vikas, before we start on law, I must say that you talk about those 6 sixes Yuvraj hit, but being an ardent fan of cricket and also of Yuvraj, people sometimes do not remember, in the same tournament, his knock in the semi-finals where he got 70 odd runs against Australia in about 30 balls and mesmerized the Australians with his batting. In the 2011 World Cup, again, the quarter-final innings against the Australians was very special. The NatWest Trophy, which we won, in which Mr. Saurav Ganguly, now the president of the BCCI, was seen from the terrace of the Lords, taking his shirt out and waving it. So it's not only the 6 sixes, but what is very special about the 6 sixes is this, that from that 1-6 Javed Miandad hit us in 1986 in Sharjah, Yuvraj took the Indians to a journey of 6 sixes. That is most important.
That's true. Mr. Yuvraj, as we're talking, we will also have the insights. It's a rare opportunity that, like a person like Mr. PUNEET BALI, is an inspiration in his own way, that he has played Ranji, he represents BCCI, he is a secretary of the PCA, and he's above all an established lawyer in his own field. You name him. We had him on Law Kitchen speaking what to talk on law. Then we had him on scope of 482. So like you had that wide range of shots, he has a wide range of establishing himself in a lawyer in a different league. Like we are awed by your playing style, we are awed by his style of presentation. Before we let's be grounded on the law issues. As many of the players, especially the youngsters who come from the rural area, etc., they are invariably called upon to sign the contract of coming from the small town, etc. What is your take, whether they should take a call from a professional, a lawyer, and what are the issues he should see when he's to sign a contract in this regard?
First of all, yes, you were talking about Mr. Bali in terms of coming and giving his inputs. I think it's very important for a strong administrator to come in the structure of cricket. I think we've seen that at a time Mr. Srinivasan was a great administrator, and I felt the same way that, our Punjab state needed a very good administrator to run the cricket structure. And someone, luckily for us, who also played cricket, and in terms of the same thinking. So we need, we need more people like Mr. Bali to come into the structure of the game, or not just cricket or any other sport. And when it comes to younger kids who are growing up and they're playing on international levels, they don't really understand law. Law is something which you learn from your own mistakes. You probably understand what law is, and after a while, where you have the money, you need probably a law firm to help you out with your whatever we call funds or money management. I don't see that is something that the players have been doing since they were young kids. I think lot of the young sportsmen, what they actually do is they save the money and they give it to their parents, thinking that that is their responsibility to give it to their parents. And I think it's responsibility of the parents to actually be smarter and take advice from a friend who's a lawyer and how to protect their children, because a lot of young kids come from very small backgrounds and they don't really understand what are they going to do with the money. I feel a lot of young players in the IPL are getting a lot of money and they don't know what to do with the money, and they're getting distracted. The focus sometimes shifts from the field. A lot of focus is on the IPL, on T20 formats and 50-over formats. They're not looking to be really good test players. So that is a cause of concern. But I think going in the future, since social media is there, I would definitely recommend the younger guys who's coming up to their parents or their teachers to have an advisory panel or advisory friend who's a lawyer to actually protect them from certain issues.
Because certain issues, like you have entered into a contract, we have also seen, and you have rather seen more closely, we have read it in the newspapers, there have been bans of different players like Azruddin, Sirisant, on different aspects in hockey, Jagrat Singh, then Jwala Gutta on badminton. So you feel, and at least as a lawyer, I have also experienced that these regulations have not been regulated in the right perspective. The way the punishment is to be done, the way all regulations are to be done. What is your take? What has been your experience on that? Though we will take a legal suggestions, legal inputs from Mr. Bali.
See, I think we need to follow certain rules of how internationally it's done. How internationally in America and England, how in sports players are protected. And if they get into litigations or in any kind of an issue where match fixing or any such scandals are involved, there has to be a certain number of proof where, the proof has to show that the player has been banned. I feel, it was an issue in our country where the lot of names had come out of players in match fixing, but because hence there was not enough proof, the matter didn't go ahead. So as Mr. Bali is someone who we should take a legal opinion on it, probably would have something to put it in a better prospect.
That's true. The point well taken. We will take your pictures. We will ask Mr. Bali to give his insights. Then we will start taking questions. Only one question I have received from one Nitin Sharma. He's working in Indian Express. This is for Mr. Yuvraj. With sports world seeing the stopping of events around the globe in the last 3 months, we have seen some sporting events opening up. How do you see that? What is the scope of cricket during these times?
This question is to me, Kaji?
Yes. It's not a legal issue. It's on how do you think that it will go about?
I feel that players' protection should be the first interest, and then the fans' protection has to be the interest as well. I think internationally, if they're starting football and whatever sports they're starting, they have to make norms of social distancing. Now the issue is, if you play sport without crowds, is it going to be that entertaining? Probably you might get value on television, but might not inspire people who are playing sport on the field, because at the end of the day you're playing for your country and you're playing for your fans. So how do you maintain social distancing in crowds? Whether you you sit when the crowds come in, you sit on a seat and you leave one seat, and then the second person sits. So these norms have to be figured out before we start any sport. I think there are certain sports where generally they have a lot of social distancing, but it can be an issue in a bigger country like India, because we have huge number of crowds, and because there's so much chaos going around coronavirus, we need to set our plans first and then integrate whatever sports we're going to play. Probably practice having social distancing. Go to a ground and get a couple of people to act as crowds and do that kind of a performance where a match is going on, and then see how it's going to be feasible in international games. I don't know, not the right guy to make comments on that, but that's just my personal view.
Thank you, Mr. Yuvraj. I just felt it was as good as 6 sixes being watched from the other side, and I realized that we had to talk on law, and Mr. Bali is just watching those 6 sixes. But Mr. Bali is another person. If he given a chance, he can even hit 7 sixes in his 6 balls while delving upon law issues. I will ask Mr. Bali, because the time is also the essence. He will play just like T20 and that 6 sixes. Give us the entire gamut of the law, sports law, etc. Then we will take the questions. Over to you, Mr. Bali. It's Mr. Yuvraj. Thank you for giving your insights. Mr. Bali.
Yes, because now you see, we have a very strange situation as far as sports and law is concerned in India. Sport in any legislation as far as India is concerned is not defined, which is very strange. We do not have a codified law for any kind of sport or cumulatively all sports in India. So what actually happens is that every association which is privately run, it is not run by the government. Most of the sports associations in India, they are either registered as under the Society Registrations Act, or they are companies formed under the provisions of the Companies Act. Now, these sports bodies have their own rules and regulations. These rules and regulations talk about playing conditions, sport itself, but also the rules in relation to the discipline of the players. Now, unfortunately, as far as our country is concerned, like you had asked a question to Yuvraj, that there are certain people, they're youngsters from far-fetched places who get into the sports arena, or they get into a team, and then they have to probably should take help from a lawyer about their legal rights and what kind of contracts they should be signing, etc. But I feel this is where these sports associations have to step in, because for some young children, as far as our country is concerned, their parents might not be very affluent, very rich, living in cities, who would have access to lawyers. So I think it's first most duty of every sports association to make the sportsman understand, along with his parents, what are the broad do's and don'ts as far as sport is concerned. How do you interact, who you can interact with, what you can speak, what you can't speak, what actually is a penalty or a punishment vis-a-vis a particular sport. Like for cricket, if you temper the ball in a test match, you'll be banned for a game, right? But then do you bring disrepute to the game, like the sandpaper gate, what happened with Steve Smith and David Warner? Though the punishment was only one test, but the board decided to ban them for a period of 1 year because they had brought disrepute to the game of cricket as far as the country is concerned. So I believe the most important thing as far as our country is concerned, we have to come out with a codified law on sport. That codified law also should not impine upon the independence of every sports association to run their affairs. There should be no interference. So what should be there? The disciplinary proceedings should be left alone to the associations. In a codified sport law, there has to be a tribunal which has to be set up, which has to be independent of the sports association. So any player who feels that he has been punished unnecessarily, he goes and appeals before that independent tribunal made of juristic persons and also a sportsman, so that he has an independent hearing. What normally is happening with a sportsman is that that very association who he plays for is the association who punishes him for a particular act he does. Now it is always going to be there that the association who has taken action against the sportsman is always going to be biased and prejudiced in its approach. So therefore, for freedom, for an exact good decision on the issues relating to the administration, discipline of an association, there has to be a sports code. There has to be a tribunal set up for the grievances of sportsmen. There has to be no interference in the running of the sports bodies. And that is how you make the sportsmen understand their rights, privileges, duties, do's and don'ts. Now, as far as law is concerned, I'll tell you something very interesting. You know, we had the F1 race in India for the first time. We had the Gautam Buddha circuit, and there was a notification issued by the government which said that they will not consider F1 as a sport, which is very strange, because they said that driving a car is not a sport. It does not involve any skill sets, which was very strange. And the organizers lost a lot of money because of that. Then we have had situations that where the court had to interfere because of situations arising of match fixing in cricket. And we had the situation where the Lodha committee reform came in. The BCCI was told to alter its constitution. There are some good things which have come out of it. There are certain things which may be, you know, deterrent for the cricket itself. Then there are issues where sportsmen get government jobs. People challenge that how are they playing professional cricket and still a professional sport and still getting a government job, because the government rules do not allow a government employee to earn from any other revenue other than the salary granted to him. So these are very wide-ranging issues which the legislators have to address. They have to address it on three basic concepts: an absolute freedom to a good sportsman to play freely and to be protected by the law, not to be haunted by the law. One. Secondly, do not interfere in the independence of associations who run the sport, but make sure that as far as sporting situations are concerned, sporting events are concerned, the sportsmen are concerned, there is an independent body set up to hear their grievances, and any decision taken by them is binding upon the sports association, but it does not interfere in their independence. That is what I would like to submit as what is the position in our country about the sports law. Now, as far as England is concerned, we have Monty on the screen, and he must have been educated by the English Cricket Board, that you had a Gaming Act in England, which was converted into the Gambling Act in about 2005. Now, like you had the instances of match fixing in England in a game in relation to Pakistan, where 3 or 4 players of Pakistan were actually convicted, and they had to do some term in prison. They had to have fines which they had to deposit. So this is required. If England can have that statute, I feel India should also have that statute. Yuvraj was very right in saying that there have to be norms. You cannot have a situation where a sportsman does inherent disintegrity to the sport. Sport is a very pious thing. It is something which makes the person the whole character defines the whole character of a nation. So there cannot be a situation where a sportsman does something like, which is called a match fixing or something in relation to, you know, bringing disrepute to the game, and he can go scot-free with it. And also, there cannot be a situation where, because of whims and fancies of an association, they feel that the sportsman has done something wrong and he should be punished. Now, I give an example of what happened with Mr. KL Rahul and Mr. Hardik Pandya giving an interview on television. Though what they said was not very parliamentary, it was not very, decent, but there was a lot of media hype about that situation. But should they have been punished the way they were? Were they to be reprimanded? Were they to be, kind of given some kind of a, brainwashing on how to conduct themselves in public? Did the association ever tell them that these are the do's and don'ts? This is what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do? Because we must realize the lifespan of a sportsman is very small as far as his sporting is concerned. Once the sportsman is in a team and he gets out of it, to come back is very difficult. So we have to make a balance. We have to make a balance in what we call sports integrity. And we have to make a balance in that we have to make sure that only an appropriate punishment should be given, not beyond what the person has done, but also a person who has brought disrepute to the sport should not go scot-free.
Mr. Bali, I think Mr. Harbhajan Singh has also joined with the video closed. If he's Mr. Harbhajan Singh, another darling of the Indian cricket, I will just ask him to show his video because he has posted that I am also there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's the right time to get introduced, Mr. Bali, to Mr. Harbhajan Singh.
Yes. He has been eluding me since the time I have took on responsibilities of the Punjab Cricket Association.
You're not the only one. He's been eluding me also.
Just when we said that he should show himself, he has just logged out. Be that as it may.
Khabar lene, Mr. Come for khabar.
Yes. I remember Mr. Yuvraj Singh and Mr. Harbhajan Singh coming on a Kapil Sharma show. We thought that maybe it will not be a comedy show, but this time on a legal platform, we will be sharing a common platform with them. Mr. Bali, as you said rightly, that I have also experienced that large number of sports authority do not have a regulated this thing. More so, large number of players who have been banned and invariably they have come out to the team back. There are examples of Jwala Gutta, Gurbaz Singh, Srisant, where there's no regulations as to what number of years should be banned, what is the procedure. Like in a service matter, there are certain regulations. But at least even the principles of natural justice has not been followed. Could you just explain for a common man what would be the principles of natural justice which is required? Let's assume any punishment, etc., is to be followed. Let's assume we take the example of KL Rahul and Pandya only.
You see, let's not talk about only cricket. Let's talk about sports in general.
Any sports, I'm saying, that's why I'm saying Jwala Gutta, Gurbaz Singh. They're all examples where they were banned, but because of non-following of principles of natural justice.
I feel every sports body should have in its inherent constitution discipline and conduct rules, which they should make for the sportsmen. They should make the sportsmen aware about these rules, and those rules should be meticulously followed. Now, let's see, these kind of rules are not there. The problem in our legal system is that, our legal system takes time to decide things as far as our country is concerned. The problem is that time is the only thing which the sportsman does not have. So I am worried about a situation where a sportsman is charged for a discipline situation, and he's punished for something, and then he goes to a competent court of law, and it takes 3-4 years for that competent court of law to give a judgment in his favor. By the time his playing years are gone. So therefore, I say that I do not want any legislation to interfere in the independent working of association. That is their right. They have to work independently. There cannot be any government control over them, on their finances, or what they are doing, what they are not doing. Everybody who is running a sports is supposed to be a person of good integrity and honesty. We should not be prejudiced about anybody's functioning and label them as black sheep right in the beginning. But I always say that as far as sportsmen is concerned and sports issues are concerned, therefore I say there has to be an appeal tribunal in relation to all associations. All associations should mandatorily be allowed to be a member of that tribunal. Every matter in relation to a sportsman should be sent to that tribunal. The tribunal should have an authority to decide the matter within a period of 2 months to 3 months, so that ultimately if the sportsman has not to be punished, he does not waste his time in fighting a legal battle rather than playing or fighting a battle on the sports field.
Like you have also represented BCCI,
Yes.
you had a rich experience while you represented BCCI. What was the issue of the BCCI which was in the Supreme Court? And since you represented BCCI, what is the take as to whether, what is your call? Because large issues arise as to whether the RTA Act will come into being, or how they have to be regulated, whether they will be state controlled. What is your take on that?
You see, I'll just give a very brief overview of what the matter was before the Honorable Supreme Court. It all started from match fixing allegations in relation to IPL. Then there was a report which came about in relation to reforms after a judgment passed by the Honorable Supreme Court, which the Honorable Supreme Court felt very disturbed about the fact that cricket is India's main game and this kind of situations are happening. So is there something more which is required for the conduct of BCCI? So Honorable Justice Lodha, who was the Honorable Chief Justice of India, a committee headed by him gave some report to the Honorable Supreme Court. And the Honorable Supreme Court ultimately directed the BCCI to implement that report. Obviously, we argued that there are certain factors in the report which are impossible for the BCCI to accept or to function smoothly. So there was some alteration as far as the report is concerned by judicial pronouncement by the Honorable Supreme Court. So that is what actually the scope of what the matter was before the Honorable Supreme Court. But I, as in all humility as a lawyer, and this is my independent view, though I was defending the BCCI and I was saying that was my job as a lawyer, that my mandate was that I should ensure that BCCI's independence is not impeded upon and the Lodha committee reforms are not thrusted upon the BCCI. That was my job as a lawyer. I was to argue for the BCCI in that concept. But something good has definitely come out from the reforms. Now, if I say it as a person who's having a independent view, something good has come out of the reforms. But I am a very, very strong believer in the courts not interfering in the functioning of private bodies and associations. The laws are set up. If somebody has done some illegal act, there is an Indian Penal Code which takes care of it. If somebody has done an illegal act as far as the sports is concerned, there is general law, though there is not a codified sports code, which I feel should be there for setting up of a tribunal, etc. But I feel that a running of an association is an independent aspect. People who do not run the sports bodies, people who are not there, do not know certain intricacies, and therefore you cannot impose upon yourself or on the sports bodies that how they should be running their affairs. In my humble opinion, it will be a direct infringement of their right under Article 19 to run an association, which is their fundamental right. And you see, a sport association has to look after its finances. It has to do its budget. Now imagine a government body interfering in a sports body and telling them that this is how you have to spend your funds. Do not spend it on this tournament, spend it on that tournament. Do not create an infrastructure. Telling you to add members who are not effectively playing the sport, creating a huge financial deficit for you. So these are a lot of issues. But since the Honorable Supreme Court has passed a judgment and order, it is binding on all of us under Article 141 and we have to follow it. So I feel it is for the legislation to come out with a codified law to safeguard the interest of the sportsman and just to safeguard the integrity of the sport, but not interfering in an independent functioning of an association.
Okay. And Mr. Bali, I remember since being a lawyer, you have also examined and you have also represented large number of players like the boxing player Vijender Singh. Since we are not discussing the issue is so broad that we can always come along. You have so much rapport with the sports players on different spectrums, of not only on cricket but Geeta Fogart. What
Yes.
are the issues except for the banning? We've also seen that players coming for an appointment after performing well. Just give one on that part, then we will take on Vijender Singh. What was the issue which was there? We just want to give the people that what type of issues do rise for a sports player also.
You see, the problem with a sportsman is that he is so much into the situation of playing a sport, playing his heart out and, doing what his mind and body tells him to do in a sport. Then he starts conducting himself in the same manner when he goes out in public employment or in a public appointment contractual situation. Now with these people, what happened was, like, I'll just give an example of Geeta Phogat. She was inducted into the police by virtue of what she had done in the sport. And then she went to an election rally to campaign for a particular politician to get votes for him. So under her discipline and conduct rules, as far as her employment with the state government is concerned, it amounts to an offense. So now my theory comes in here, that once a sportsman has got into employment with the government, has somebody counseled him or her that this is the do's and don'ts, please do not do it? Yes, she had to face disciplinary action, and ultimately we had to be in the court to defend her. And similarly with Vijender Singh, the issue was that he converted into professional boxing. Now, professional boxing was not allowed in Olympics till the last 4 years. He got into the professional boxing, and the issue got arisen that now he has been given a job of a DSP, that is a Deputy Superintendent of Police in the state of Haryana. Then how, if he is given a job, he's been given a job so that he goes to the Olympics and gets a gold medal for India or get a medal for India. Now, if he's turning professional, he's not going to go to the Olympics. So why should his employment continue? Then I had to explain to the court that boxing may be amateur and professional, but you have given, the government has given jobs to so many cricketers, and that's all a professional game. They all get paid by the BCCI to play the game. So therefore, we had to distinguish that the person who goes, whether he becomes professional or not professional, once he is given employment, if he does not play the sport, I mean, he will get money to play the sport. So either he'll have to leave his employment or he will have to leave the sport. So there has to be a special, kind of a thing given to the sportsmen, an exception being given to them, that this is allowed for them to do and this is not allowed for them to do. So that was the issue before the Honorable Court.
Because I thought that as we would be running short of time, I thought that let's have what type of spectrum of issues could be there. And
Yes.
Mr. Amdas has asked whether there are any sports policies / guidelines issued by the government of India. What are the guidelines as to whether they regulate, as to how they be paid, as to, I'm going a step further. Is there any regulation for payments? Mr. Yuvraj can also pitch on that. And as to whether, what could be the ban, what are the entire regulations? Are there any codified laws, or what things do go about it? And probably Harbhajan Singh again joined up. If Harbhajan is there, I will just request him. No, he sent a message. Okay, it's fine. If he's there, he will join. So Mr. Bali, just explain on that aspect, because this is one question which invariably bothers, as to whether there is any codified law, because though you said in so many words, but again that questions have cropped up.
No, I had just
How do they
explained earlier, there was a judgment passed by the Honorable Delhi High Court, where they had, said that there has to be a codified law and what kind of sports code should be followed. And then the government was mulling out with the idea to come out with a legislation. But as far as my information goes, that no such legislation has come about. And so therefore, as far as the sport is concerned, it is still now, whether it is matters of disciplinary proceedings or it is a matter of match fixing, etc., they are governed by common law as of today.
Then do you believe that this game of cricket, Mr. Sumeet Kansal has asked, since there is a lot of commercialization, what is your take? It's a professional this thing, or it's no more like a business? What is your take on that?
You see, I do not like to call any sportsman's hard-earned money, whether it is 5 rupees or 5 crores or 5 billion or million, as a business. Obviously, it's a profession. You take profession of sport. Your success rate is the lowest in any profession you will take in the world. Even if you try and prepare for an IAS or IPS examination, you'll have one batch which will have about 80 IAS, IPS officers in every year, but only 2 or 3 kids break into the Indian team every year. So I think it will be very harsh to call the money earned by a sportsman as a business. It's a profession. He has so many angles to cover: his body, his physical good well-being, his talent in sport, then breaking into a squad, then getting into the Indian squad. So we are talking about cricket here. Look at how much money the footballers earn, and they earn that money playing for their clubs, not even for the country. So it's a profession which pays you very well if you are the best. And I think that is one of the things which enlightens this ambition to become a great sportsman. Why should a youngster not aspire to become a great sportsman, to say that I'm going to have fanfare and I'm going to have a lot of money? I think it is a very attractive proposition for a very, very difficult profession.
Do you believe that there should be certain regulations and legislation, and what is your take how that legislation can be put forward, or there should be centralized regulations for all, let's assume for punishment or any other regulations which have to be done? Do you believe that there should be?
No, not at all. All the disciplinary issues have to be left alone to the associations. I do not like interference in the working and functioning of association by outside bodies, or especially by the government bodies. I again told you that under the aegis of a legislation, there should be set up an independent tribunal to safeguard the interest of sportsmen, and that's all about it. But to make a legislation to run an affairs of an association, it will totally finish the sport in the country. Any kind of
yes. Another question what is being asked, though this question has been posed to Mr. Yuvraj Singh expresses in his own way, and then you can pitch in that. Things like silver ban or having artificial things to shine ball, etc., is there, for which no contract measures are issued. How do you believe that there should be regulations, or what is your take on this?
Well, I strongly believe that when we start cricket, or whatever sport is around, putting saliva on the ball, or whatever, touching the ball with your face or mouth, I think you probably have to start with that by not using the saliva, because coronavirus is quite deadly and it can spread very quickly. So I think that is the right call they have taken to start it off with. But in the long run, when and hopefully it disappears, probably the norms can change around it of using the saliva, because you sometimes in tough conditions where the ball is not swinging much, you have to use saliva to make the ball swing and swing or seam. So in the long run, probably the norms can change, but I think it's a good way to start it.
Then the other question is, do you believe that there can be legalized betting? What is your take on that?
Legalized betting?
Yes.
I don't know, not the right guy to talk about it, but my view would be, match fixing is very different from betting. Like if you see internationally, betting, not only just sport, like not only just cricket, people have online platforms where they actually, predict and win money. So if that's considered as betting, then, I'm not the one to say about it. But I feel match fixing and betting are two separate issues. And we definitely, as Puneet ji said, that we need to define and put in a certain norms, or put in that, put in the law for what are going to be the repercussions if you get involved in a betting scandal or a match fixing scandal. So I think is something which probably the governing body of sport and the lawyers have to sit down and probably decide. As Puneet ji said, that we don't know what direction we take in our country, because we don't have norms for people who have been acquitted in match fixing. So we need to have certain norms where there are certain things, are written or implemented in our systems. So it's actually a very long process, because internationally, I don't know, there are different norms, and in India the norms are just not justified, or also not explained properly. So I think it has to be explained properly and put in the system.
This question is to Mr. Bali. They say we invariably see in different sports authority, sometimes there is not a fair elections. Do you believe that there should be elections, number one? And number two, what are the steps with which the elections can be much fairer?
Sorry, what are the elections? In what context are you talking about elections?
Elections of the any sports authorities who select them. I can read the question fully.
I think elections could be a way out. I'm again not the right person to talk about it. But we need... Hanji, Vikas ji, kya keh rahe?
No, I'm saying Mr. Bali can express the legal inputs along with
absolutely.
Because two things I'll answer you straight away. As you see in the Lodha committee report, there were some suggestions that betting should be legalized in India like it has been legalized in England. However, that did not find favor with the court, and the Indian government has not come out with a kind of a legislation like England has the Gaming Act, the Gaming and Gambling Act, which was earlier there. And betting on games has been, or gambling on games has been there for a very long time. It has been horse racing, then it has been in football games. So my take on it is that if people want to gamble on it, as far as it does not touch the integrity of the sport, it gets you good revenue, it gets a good revenue to the government, there should be no harm in it. There are a lot of countries which do it. But can we as a country with our fabric and character manage it? That's another issue. Now, as far as the elections are concerned to a sports body, in every sports body and association, there is a charter for election where elected persons are elected from time to time. The normal grievance of every person is that one person or a group of people always get elected and re-elected, and they never leave the association. Right? So that is basically where you talk about the fairness of elections. I feel as far as the election is concerned, if not conducted properly, there is a remedy in common law. As far as repeated election of certain people again and again to sports bodies is concerned, there are 2 points of views to it. There are people who are working in the sports body for like say 20 years, 25 years. The FIFA boss who unfortunately expired 2-3 years back at the age of 90 was running the FIFA for 40 years almost. And he was running it beautifully. So the question is, there's a lot of people who dedicate their life to sport and do nothing else, but they are a part of the organization and they keep on getting elected. And the other point of view is that the other people never get a chance. So I say in a democratic setup, if it is democratic and if it is genuine, the members are genuine. If one person has the tenacity or the fan following that people elect him in a democratic process again and again, then let it be. I mean, can we say, do we put a embargo on one person not to be the prime minister for 20 terms in this country? No, we can't do that. We don't have any such law even in the Representation of People Act. But now you look at the law as far as the US is concerned, you can be a president for 2 terms consecutively, not beyond that. So it all depends upon a particular association. If the association feels that they want to give continuity to a person and let him continue, if he's popular enough to be elected or re-elected, it is their take. If the association feels that yes, 2 years, 2 terms or 3 terms is good enough, youngsters or new people should come in, then it is their take. As far as my personal belief is concerned, I feel that tenure should be long enough for a person to be attracted to come to a sports association, because 5, 6, 7 years is a minimum time when a person should be given to make or create something. But I always feel that every tenure or everything should come to an end and new people should be given a chance.
Mr. Bali, though it's not a direct question with the legal, Mr. Yuvraj Singh and your insights, if it can actually help. Mr. Harshad Joshi is time and again asking, what books can I refer for sports law? I don't have financial capabilities to go abroad to learn it. What is your take? are there any books available on that?
You see, what is the latest buzz on sports law, sports international arbitration? Now, if you go on the net, you'll find how to, get into that, how you study sports law. I do not know of a lot of institutions or universities who directly teach you sports law in this country. So you'll have a little bit of a difficulty, but if you look on the website now, international sports arbitration is a very, very big and financially very big phase of law or arena of law, which you can work on.
One question has been asked, like VRV was playing for the Ranji Trophy and he had been appointed. And then ultimately, since he was playing for the Ranji Trophy, he was thrown out. Do you feel that there should be some method to regulate in such like condition that who is being selected on the basis of his sports abilities?
No, I don't get the question. The question doesn't make any sense.
Vikaji, question ka, I don't understand. This question doesn't make any sense.
He says VRV was thrown out of, I am also not very aware. He has posted a question that VRV was thrown out of his services because he was playing Ranji Trophy.
No, I don't think anything like that.
That's a wrong allegation.
That is wrong.
That's incorrect.
Wrong. In fact, the governments have always been supporting people who have played for India. And even as the state of Haryana, granted an appointment to Mr. Joginder Singh, who I think bowled one golden ball of his life. He got Misbah-ul-Haq out in the T20 World Cup, and he became a DSP after that. Mr. Balwinder Singh Sandhu bowled one golden ball in his life, getting probably Gordon Greenwich out bowled in the 1983 World Cup, and he's made a killing out of it. What's wrong in it? I mean, I have not heard of anything in relation to VRV getting out of employment because he was
in fact, I had also not heard it, nor read it.
To my knowledge, it is all trash. And VRV is a very good kid. He's a boy who's served Punjab well, who served India well, and he is now, I think, the coach of Chandigarh administration. And I'm told he's doing very well.
Yes, absolutely. He's also been appointed coach this year of Ranji Trophy, and under his coaching, they have won 95% of the game. So he's actually had a very good stint at Chandigarh Cricket Association.
I almost feel like kidnapping and getting him to Punjab.
I think after hearing on this platform, he can take you and actually come there. And Rohit Suri Sethi asks, what is your take on sledging and how it is relevant in today's session in cricket law, etc.?
This is a question to me or Yuvraj?
Anybody can you answer. Mr. Bali can answer it because some questions are primarily more based on law.
All right. I only say this, that the sport has to be exciting. So it is not exciting to watch a fast bowler, bowling a bouncer and then saying sorry to a batsman. I would not like to watch that kind of a sport. I would like the fast bowler to hit a batsman, stare at him, and the batsman staring back at the bowler, because that is where the competition comes in. And as far as sledging is concerned, something which is sporting, which is fun, absolutely right. But I absolutely detest in the form of sledging racial slurs, talking about anybody's caste, talking about anybody's religion. Now that has to be codified. As far as cricket is concerned, it is already codified. You cannot do it. But sledging also has different dimensions. And I always remember this on the lighter side in an Australian tour, where Andrew Symonds and Mr. Harbhajan Singh had a little tiff on the cricket field. And Mr. Andrew Symonds claimed that Mr. Harbhajan Singh had called him a monkey, right? And Mr. Harbhajan Singh said that I had not called you a monkey. I had actually abused you in the name of the mother. But Andrew Symonds said that is fine, but monkey is wrong. So it's everybody's perception, and what happened after that is all history. So it's all what a person takes offense to. Maybe Mr. Andrew Symonds thought that it was a racial slur against him, and Mr. Harbhajan obviously did not understand what he was saying. Both of them did not mean anything. So I mean, it was very surprising for Mr. Harbhajan Singh to understand that, oh, I've called him a monkey, which in India anybody will call a bandar aa gaya, that kind of thing. And he said that I have abused him in the name of the mother. And he says it's okay. He's okay with it. So it's very strange. Sometimes person's personal thought always, interferes in what kind of sledging he faces. But as long it is parliamentary, it is in good it is in, good spirit. Like Yuvraj faced, sledging from Kevin Peterson on his bowling, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I love that sledge when he called me the pie chucker.
And I think he had some candies spread on the cricket wicket or something like that. Jelly beans, am I right? Something like that happened. And but that was all good fun. That is all in the good spirit of the game. If these kind of things are not there in sport, then who's going to enjoy it? But never cross the line. Never cross the line.
Thankfully, he didn't come to Mr. Bali. He would have said that Mr. Harbhajan Singh never said. He intended to say man ki. You should hear my man ki baat. Because monkey would look closer to it's a man ki baat. And then
Mr. Modi was not the Prime Minister then.
No, but man ki baat is always there. Anybody who gives to they say that the heart is on the left, but it always thinks right.
Yes, of course.
One question, since we would be running short of time, then we will have certain intakes. How do you this thing? One question, one is asking whether there should be one unified codified law for all sports, Mr. Bali, or there should be separate codes for all different sports.
No, I have already answered that question and I have said a lot about it. I feel that there has to be no interference in the working of an association, but one code as an appellate code for disciplinary issues in relation to sportsmen or any other disciplinary issue in relation to members of an association. That's all. Nothing beyond that.
Thank you. As we generally go by 1 hour 30 minutes, and it was a vast topic, but at least we can say that the trailer is there. Some people have posted to ask Mr. Yuvraj Singh, it's beyond the sports law and beyond. He says that what is the best moment of memory which you remember besides what you have enjoyed as a cricket while being a sports player?
I mean, there'll be lots of memories where we won some major championships, personal records like 6 sixes, but I think personally winning the World Cup after 28 years and winning it in India, and especially doing it for Sachin Tendulkar, the guy who actually deserved the World Cup trophy more than us, was a very special memory.
Can I ask Yuvraj a question?
Definitely. He's on the platform because of you.
No. I'm on the platform because of him.
Both ways.
Yuvraj, everybody talks to you about your fondest memories in cricket. Can you tell me only? I've always wanted to ask you this question. Can you tell me two things? Something on the cricket field which really, disturbed you, or which was not a fond memory, like the reverse of a fond memory. And what is your most important turning moment of your life as far as your sports career is concerned and your general life is concerned?
There have been a couple of disturbing moments in my career. It's not easy to talk about them, but I can probably say one or two. I was in the Ranji Trophy camp. I was 16 years old, 15 or 16, and me and Harbhajan was just there to pick balls for the seniors. We hardly would get a chance, but we were in the team. I remember in the nets, one of the guys hit a big six, and the ball went over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to get the ball, but there were young kids, and I told them to throw the ball. And I remember the coach telling me, "Ke ja ball utha ke leke aa. Cricket तूने खेलनी है, तेरे बाप ने नहीं." So I remember that was pretty disturbing at that age when I was about 16. And then I was playing a test match against Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And they, were number one in sledging. then now I don't know who it is. And I remember Shane Warne sledging me, and which actually I can't really say right now on the public platform, but I thought that it was very disturbing, and pretty much the whole group, when they started sledging. So, it actually thought that, okay, this is what international cricket is about, and probably, there's going to be a time where we have to start giving back to them. And we waited for our turns, and we remember 2007 World Cup when we had no seniors. There was Sachin was rested, Rahul, Saurav were rested. So we actually were a young bunch of them and decided that we're going to get after them. And we sledged them. How they sledged us, we sledged them twice, twice more or something like that. So we waited for our time, basically. So young guys, wait for your time. Your time will come. Be patient.
And what about life? What about something most disturbing and most happy in life other than sport?
Most disturbing things in life. I mean, there has been a lot of disturbing moments in growing up years, but I would say most disturbing, I think, was probably hearing the news about cancer, because I remember I was peak of my career. We won the World Cup. I was man of the series. I think that news was very disturbing for me and the family. So yeah, I would pretty much say that was the most disturbing news at that time. But eventually, I prevailed and overcame it, and it's just a bad memory now.
And your biggest motivation in life, your topmost motivation in life, what actually motivated you to be what you are? What we see Yuvraj Singh today, what motivated him? One single thing. That's it. Yes, that's why I want to be Yuvraj.
Mr. Bali, I will say not only Yuvraj, the insights what Mr. Yuvraj will say, that will be just he used to do the ad, ye dil mange more. People actually want to listen. What is that killing spirit to do that better? And people are just posting on the chat and otherwise also on the WhatsApp that once you heard this of cancer, how did you cope up? How did you come back to it? It's an inspirational story we would like to have. I just wish somebody made a biopic on that.
Well, coming back to Mr. Bali's answer, I think motivation was always my dad in cricket. I think I was someone who was trying to achieve his dream, and I think after the World Cup, I think the motivation was to prove I can still do it to myself, because obviously the whole world is when they're against you and they said you can't do it, and I mean, you can't just go against the whole world, but you got to prove it to yourself that you can still do it again. Sorry sir, what was your next question about the journey?
No, you suffered that, but what was that thing that willpower, what is that force which made you do better? Like you said that your father inspired you to do better, play sports. But that cancer part is just, I can say, just disturbs anybody. But still coming back, it's an inspirational story for anybody. And then you are running that society, people helping that. What is your take on that? And how did you cope up with that? How did you make yourself mentally stable? Mentally and physically also. Obviously, it's a very, very different sort of this thing.
Well, obviously, it's a long topic to discuss, but what I'll put in brief is, it was cancer happened at a time when I was the peak of my career, and I was looking to play test matches at that time. I had finally got a place, so it was hard to come to terms with it, because as a young athlete, when you're playing for your country, and you train hard, you eat well, and you're playing it's hard to accept that it can happen to you. But eventually coming to terms with it took a long time, and not going for the treatment, and eventually going for a treatment and understanding that anybody can go through it. Well, you look at it, fortunately, I came out of it. Unfortunately, happened at the wrong time, but I think inspiration that time was reading a lot about Lance Armstrong's comeback. And then the reason that I thought that I wanted to come back was that I wanted to play cricket for India again. I was very determined to make a comeback because I thought I could still do it. And I think those are the things that kept me motivated to come and do something which is next to impossible.
I think that the word, as they say, impossible, the ad line says that impossible actually means I am possible, and you have actually shown that. And this is a common question to Mr. Bali as well as Mr. Yuvraj Singh, that people are saying that both of you have excelled in your own fields, you have created your own niche. What is your take to the youngsters, what they should do to become a very successful person or whatever career one wants to take?
Yuvraj, you can answer it first. I'll answer it after you.
To young kids, I would like to say that don't take the shorter route. Don't put your energy into bad company. If you are hurt and if you are disturbed, put that energy into something good, which can create a future for you. And success is not an easy road. It's a very long. It's a long road. It's a long way. Don't take shortcuts, because eventually you will fall in shortcuts. And believe in your dreams. I feel dreams are made of you, and when you dream, you know how it feels when you fulfill your dream. What I would also like to say is never give up, because you don't know when you climb that mountain what lies ahead of you. Pretty much.
Yes, I will absolutely endorse what Mr. Yuvraj has said, but I will always tell every youngster that the only thing they need to do is to keep their mind healthy and their body healthy, and to keep on working hard. Whether it is sport, whether it is education, you have to just keep on fighting and just getting up every day and making yourself believe that you are the champion and you can do it. Don't be over ambitious, just be hardworking. Everything will fall into place. And secondly, I tell this to every youngster, and I take a leaf out of what Yuvraj told us right now, that when he was 16, somebody told him that ye cricket tere baap ne nahi khelni, tune khelni hai, right? So there are two ways to look at it. One, youngster will look at it as a problem, and he will say, oh my God, somebody has told this to me. Yuvraj looked at it as a solution. He said that this has happened to me, so my solution is that I'm going to become the greatest in the country one day because of what has been told to me. So I always say, in your life, try to find solutions. Do not discuss problems. If you have a problem, you find a solution, you'll move ahead. If you have a problem and you keep on thinking about it, you'll be in the reverse gear. So feel motivated, live healthy, live strong, and just keep on doing your thing. Everything will fall in place.
One relevant question has come from Vishal Bhagde. He says, this is primarily more focused towards Yuvraj Singh. Taking into consideration your experience of dealing with a deadly disease like cancer, what would you advise to those persons who have been diagnosed as COVID-19 positive in this pandemic? What would be your motivational words to such people? How can they overcome that mental pressure where life has become full of uncertainty?
Vikas ji, first I would like to say that हमें 1 घंटा 40 मिनट हो गए, and I will take that as my last question.
Yeah,
because,
that's true.
Have to go. I feel in these times are really tough. It's important that we motivate each other. We spread the right news across each other. We should not spread fake news. We should try and get healthy in our body, in our minds, probably with meditation or training, and make the best use of this lockdown, because eventually life will get back, and we all as Indians and around the world people, we believe that doing positive things, things will get back. I know it's a tough year for everyone in terms of everything, but I think we all need to have that belief that one day we are going to rise again. But do the right things in these times. Motivate others, help others, reach out to people who don't have food. Try and make sure everybody gets food. Try and make sure everybody gets shelters in storms. And be a human. You are a human being, but being a human is very different from being a human being. So this is a time to show that you are a human. So I think it's testing times for everyone, and everybody has to believe that one day we will all want to come out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Yuvraj. We couldn't have expected. In fact, when you said it's 1 hour 40 minutes, it's just like a full T20 side which we are seeing. And to engage you for this much time, we are quite enamored by the fact that you joined us. And Mr. Bali, as usual, people have just latched upon the insights, but still I feel that it's such a vast subject that 1 hour 40 minutes or whatever time is there, and especially when Yuvraj and Mr. Bali are there, people just get enamored. They just want to ask questions with the law and beyond law also. We had Surinder Sharma. Somehow he has to come on the vote of thanks. I'm just asking him. He's the member of the Bar Council. I suppose he has joined with some other name. Mr. Surinder, kindly come on the video. He's the member Bar Council. He's the vice chairman of the Bar Council. I'm not able to see him. Mr. Sharma, you can call on my mobile. Be that as it may, it has been a wonderful experience, a great insights, beyond law CLC and ULS Punjab University. Do not have the words to express the gratitude, because the insights, we have always been discussing about law, and Mr. Bali has been kind enough to come on this platform giving the insights with his, and the fact that he represents BCCI, he's the secretary of PCA, and otherwise also as a lawyer, he's doing exceptionally well. Mr. Surinder, I'm not being able to see you on the platform. Just last, Mr. Bali and Mr. Yuvraj, just 1 minute, I'm just checking him because he's a dear friend of ours. A vote of thanks from his side coming into it would be a fantastic thing. I don't think he's there. Thank you, everyone. Stay blessed, stay safe, and the inspiration which Mr. Yuvraj has given us. And needless to say, Mr. Bali, who inspires as a cricketer, he shows us how the balance has to be maintained, being a sports player, being on the administrative side, being as a lawyer. Thank you, everyone who have stayed connected with us. And Mr. Yuvraj Singh, I would like to say that people are just latching you on the live on Facebook, and we will be going on the YouTube also on this channel. And tomorrow, another session we are having, living relationship. We are at the contemporary law on that. What is the scope of that? We are having Mr. Tanveer Ahmed, Mr. Sujoy Kantawala, and Raj Khosla, the famous art director and husband of Mandra Bedi, on the platform to give his insights. Thank you, everyone. And my apologies to Mr. Surinder Sharma, we couldn't see.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Mr. Yuvraj Singh, thank you. And I would, and Mr. Monty, who gave another flip to the entire show. I will just, we also express thank you to Mr. Monty Manesar and to all those participants who have. Mr. Harbhajan Singh, our message could be conveyed through Mr. Yuvraj Singh. I'm unmuting Mr. Monty Manesar before we sign off for the day. Yes, Mr. Monty.
Yeah, just like to say thank you for inviting me, and thank you, PUNEET, Bali, and also Yuvraj, to listen to your insightful views on sports law and about your career as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot, Yuvraj. You have spared very precious time. You're always an inspiration. You've always been my hero, though you are younger to me, and you are the hero of our nation. We are proud of you. Keep it up. God bless. Keep on contributing towards this great country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
He will keep on motivating every one of us.
Thank you, Vikasji. Thank you, Puneetji. Can you hear me?
It's all. Yes.
Thank you, Vikasji, and thank you, Mr. Bali. You always been a very, you like a big brother and being a huge helping hand to me. And thank you, Monty. It was nice to chat with you and have your viewpoints. And last but not the least, thank you to all my fans who've been very supportive in these tough times. They've always had my back, and love you guys. Unfortunately, I cannot answer to all of you. I know you had a lot of messages, but in time, I would definitely surely answer back to you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe. Stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.